Winners and losers from oil price plunge. What do you think is causing it?
Well, the prevailing view, and I've got no reason to, I wouldn't sort of like counter this, is that basically we have a glut in the market at the moment. Demand is down because we've got a general sort of slowdown, global slowdown general slowdown in growth worldwide. That sort of seems self-evident. I mean, certainly the Eurozone isn't growing. China's growth is slowing. You know, the sort of like, yeah, the decision's still out elsewhere. And also, you know, Saudi has decided that it's going to carry on. In fact, it's actually raising production. Saudi is one of the, sort of like the swing oil state which can actually sort of raise and lower production. So as far as OPEC's concerned, it's sort of like the big player there. Now, in usual times, sort of like Saudi would have cut back on production to sort of boost the oil price. So that, because all these countries all these oil producers have a break even for oil, and it can be as high as, and break even being not just how much it costs to actually get the stuff out of the ground, but also in terms of sort of how much that country spends in social security and keeping its populations happy. What price of oil does it need? So you've got countries like Venezuela, Iran, these oil producers where oil is such an important part of their economy. So they depend on a certain oil price. Now the view is that the Saudis are trying to deliberately knock the oil price lower. Why would they do that? Well, in the first instance, it was thought that it was to harm the Russians, and it's because Russia, of course, is an exporter. It supplies energy to sort of a lot of Europe. Germany is one of its great suppliers, and I think the Saudis were sort of it's tied up with the politics of the Middle East and what's going on in Syria and IS and all this kind of stuff. God knows, I mean, don't know where to start with that. But the first instance was that Saudi wanted to hurt the Russians. The second thing is actually, Saudi is sort of having a pop at the US, because there's been so much talk about the US not just becoming energy independent, but also looking now that it is now producing so much of its own crude that it could start to, it's in a position to export oil over the next few years. And it's, talk about it becoming the major world producer. So the reason for that has been sort of the success of fracking. So some of the sort of, it's not even conspiracy theories, but some of the view is that sort of if the Saudis can get that oil price down to the 80 level or even below, then there's sort of a lot of those fracking businesses become, they can't operate, and it'll drive a lot of them out. So in other words, it's sort of knocking the competition.
Are low prices, oil prices, good for the economy, or has this price plunge been engineered to stop fracking for oil in Western countries?
Yeah, I mean, there's a suspicion that it's a long-term game by the Saudis, and to keep the oil price low, it serves a lot of interests. It's a shot across the bows of the Russians. It's actually sort of just displaying how powerful the Saudis still are in the oil market. And yeah, I mean, it could be that keeping oil down at $80 or below for any sustained period will really damage the fracking in the US in particular. So there's all that. In terms of sort of the actual oil price and lower oil, well, I mean, lower oil prices is great for us as consumers. I mean, even though the fact that a litre or a gallon of petrol is taxed to such a huge degree in this country, nevertheless, we do feel it when fuel prices come down. The US certainly see and feel it, and it's almost like, I mean, it's described as sort of like a tax break, or it's described as sort of, it's actually cash, it's cash in consumers' pockets, which they'll go on and spend, and it's coming at just the right time. At the time that we're recording, is coming at just the right time, because we're not that far off from Christmas and everything else. So yeah. I mean, that is seen. Lower oil price, of course, adds to GDP, adds to growth. So that's all good news.
Crude oil prices have plunged by $25 or more than 20% since mid-June, raising many questions. How low do you think prices will go?
I find it, I mean, it's very difficult to predict where we could go on anything, let alone crude. I sort of look at this and I think, well, this is probably a temporary thing. how, you know, we've had the sharp movement, and so we've already, what have we factored in already? The market's factored in the fact that we've got lower growth worldwide. It's factored in, so, and we've got plenty of supply, and the Saudis are making sure that that supply glut continues. So realistically, how much lower could we go? I don't know. I mean, there's some talk. I mean, there is some talk of sort of trying to get this down to, you know, 65 or something like that. But could you hold it for any length of time? No, I don't think so. Not at those levels. You know, I guess where do we get down to? 80 or so, a little bit below that maybe. You know, I think we're sort of there or thereabouts. So I think it's now a question of will the oil price hold at these levels and sort of establish a range at these levels? Because that in itself would probably do what the Saudis want to do. Now, the other side of that is, of course, what the US want to do with the oil price. So, I mean, I think we're getting it to the stage where we've got a bit of a trade-off here, and we'll sort of mess around about sort of the 80 level to 100 level for a while.
Will Saudi Arabia and OPEC move to cut output?
I mean, I suppose the Saudis will when it suits them. But I mean, at the current time, I mean, they don't seem to be sort of having any interest in it. I mean, it's the Saudis that matter here. The rest of OPEC really don't.